On the whole, the show forgoes the process of earning or organically moving towards an emotional goal, rather forcing the characters into surreal and nightmarish situations where they are forced to deal with their inner emotions, which they infrequently then address aloud. When they do, these monologues, which almost entirely take place in the last two seasons, work well and help to give a deeper emotional voice to the characters we've grown to like, even if these moments themselves feel unearned by conventional TV standards. I think the first season lays out the groundwork with two very great episodes, while season two is the heyday of much of the show, laying down classics of its house style. Season three covers ground that was clearly written during the early conceptions of seasons one and two, featuring an almost anthological approach over a narrative driven one. Season four, in a way, feels like a victory lap of sorts, where the concepts are not necessarily new ideas for the show, but by and large, more and more comedic values of situations or nightmarish perfected surrealism. Long are the days of Teddy Perkins and Woods here, where Mr. Chocolate is some obvious attempt to subvert Teddy Perkins, while Andrew Wyleth Alfred's world is an extension of Woods, replacing the horrors of Al's images from the fear of the streets and muggings to dangerous wild hogs. I think the amount of time spent between seasons, which is pushed even further by my own time frame for watching and finishing the entire show, did no fans the service of being able to watch season to season, year to year, something that may have actually lost its steam. All in all, this is a great show, which does more to positively put black artists in the spotlight while showing the tension present not only in Atlanta, the rap game, the music industry, and the streets, but in America and even slightly in small pockets of Europe. The show's use of black art, primarily but not certainly limited to music, does successfully complete which Glover, the main cast, the clearheads of creative like Hiro Murai wanted to accomplish. Everything is helpfully backed up by the final episode, in which we are given dueling narratives between Darius doing a weekly visit to a deprivation tank, the obvious setup for trippiest surreal moments, and Al, Ern, and Van going to a new black-owned sushi restaurant. The rollout of each situation highlights the strengths and aims of the entire show, an attempt to show the mood and culture of Atlanta, which in this case could be exemplified by the high school kids doing fuckboy dances outside of a Popeyes. As Darius loses his grip on reality, something that often bordered on Rick Sanchez levels of self-awareness throughout the show, Glover seems to highlight his own inner conflict of wanting to make trippy, thought-provoking black art while also making something digestible enough to appeal to anyone and everyone. The show does nod several times straight to the audience about its appeal to white Americans, the most notable example being a copy of the album Awaken My Love prominently displayed during the Juneteenth episode. And some of this guilt that the show and more largely Glover and his writing staff feel for making something that is so easily repurposed or recontextualized by white Americans that they may own. The same way that the black chefs have repurposed the art of sushi, which in and of itself feels like a nod to the main man behind the camera oftentimes, not Glover, Hiro Murai. Glover knows that these endless cycles of appropriation of art cannot be avoided, and the show lives within this tension, this discomfort. It's difficult to describe in words, and thankfully I don't need to, because the show spent years doing it perfectly. And while every episode is not necessarily sanded down or edited excellently or drawing the same sort of through lines from episode one to this final episode, by and large, each moment of the show is working towards this goal. The discomfort that the characters, and by extension Glover, the writing staff, and Hiro Murai feel working in the entertainment industry while trying to maintain any sort of edge appropriate for living a more regular life. I think to simplify the show down to Twin Peaks with rappers, a quote from Glover, or a show about rappers misses the point entirely. And among any who watched the entire thing, I would be shocked to find any who enjoyed every minute, let alone could swallow the discomfort wholesale and come out of it on the other side feeling A, above the difficulties of racism, or B, satisfied with the show as a product rather than art. Artistically, I couldn't ask more from this show. It oozes with every style of black art imaginable, ranging from its roots in African art, American slavery, boo-wop, jazz, hip-hop, and everything in between. It elevates these artists that are highlighted and showcased, even those who wouldn't always be considered among the most important quote unquote artists working in America today, which would be a shout out to artists like Soulja Boy. From a craft perspective in filmmaking, the show is regularly top notch, with Glover and Mariah as directors of most of the episodes, which would be in total 35 of the show's 41 episodes directed by one or the other. They craft a vision like none other on TV. Both of them are able to create evocative, deep images, both technologically, with lighting and motivated camera work, to stylistically, which would be literally deep images. And these create all kinds of emotional moments of range. They experience joy, grief, rage, disappointment, confusion, shock, and awe in equal parts from start to finish. The pacing remains coherent and consistent, even in the two BAN episodes, which would be BAN and The Goof Who Sat by the Door, an achievement all in and of itself. The music choices are top shelf, great companions for mood, which elevate the meanings of each inclusion. Opening titles often set the tone and have meanings, which can alter the narratives of each episode. Closing songs will often do the same, even subverting the narrative given to add even more possible discomfort to the ears of the keen. Glover's own creativity cannot be contained. He voiced nearly every diegetic piece of music in the show, plays most of the prosthetic-based characters, and voices every single off-screen character. There are a litany of wonderful cameos, Black artists who have had their day in the sun and those who have not, spread far and wide across every episode, both in major and minor roles. I hope I'm not alone in my love of this show, one that to me was a hit from start to finish, and thankfully was as well in terms of critical acclaim, though it seemed to have never reached a large audience playing on FX. I don't know if the popularity of the show was a result of the pacing, the emphasis on surrealism. I think that can leave a lot of viewers confused, bored, or unable to handle the discomfort. I want to shout out Stephen Glover, Stefani Robinson, and all of the other members of the writing staff whose names I've unfortunately forgotten. All in all, a fantastic show, not only for those interested in hip hop, rap, and the culture of Atlanta, but those who love surrealism, Black or not, and most importantly, art in general. It succeeds in whatever its goal is. It has an ending with "It was all a dream," creating an environment to create, examine, and consider for a long time to come.